right, welcome back to Spearfactor, everybody. Got camera here, super high quality. All right.
Camera one, camera two.
Yep. We're here with Brad from the OC Spiros, who's also co-owner or inventor of Vizi bags. But I guess let's just get started. So how, like I always start out, how everybody's like spearfishing journey began, or whatever you want to call it. How you guys got started spearfishing to begin with.
Yeah, so my personal story is I've always been a term that I learned after I started spearfishing, a land hunter, and
awesome,
and a fisherman. Yeah, so so I was hook and line forever. I mean, I can remember being a little kid and trying to scrounge together every penny dollar that I could find, and then I'd get my Bass Pro Shops catalog, and buy like lures and all kinds of crazy stuff. And my dad's best friend has always had big boats, so we would spend pretty much every weekend either out of Dana or San Diego, hook and line fishing. And there was a day, and I
So where are you from originally? Are you from
here? So
San Diego? Okay.
Well, no, Orange County. So I lived in Orange County my whole life except for college. I went up to Oregon.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how I came across the picture, but I found that book, the Terry Moss Guide to Blue Water Hunting.
Yeah.
And I saw him dragging that
the
bluefin up from
the bluefin
from the depths, and I didn't know what I was looking at, and I'm like, I need to do this.
Right.
Half of my family, my dad's side of the family, is all from Hawaii, and my mom's side of the family is all from New York. So I'd grown up, free diving, skin diving, doing whatever, and then we'd always had the yellow Hawaiian slings.
Right.
But I didn't know that outside of the Hawaiian sling that there was anything like spearfishing. I didn't know. And then I saw that, and suddenly it was this rabbit hole that I had to dive down into.
Isn't it weird? I don't know what it is about like whatever primitive thing is in you. And I say it's very like Neanderthal-ish, but I'm kind of a meathead anyways. But like where you see those pictures and it's like whatever it is, it just triggers everything. You're like, I want to do that. Like,
well, for me, it was the idea of grabbing the bull by the horns. So the hook and line fishing, I still love. I still love hook and line fishing, but it's a lot of putting the ball in the fish's court and hoping that today's his day to come to you.
Yeah.
Whereas with freediving and spearfishing, you're now not only reversing that paradigm, taking the ball into your own hands.
Yeah, you're actively seeking out the fish.
You're actively seeking out the fish in an area that's completely alien and foreign to what your normal life experience has been. And throughout the years, I've then later found out that wait a minute, genetically no, we are predisposed to being in the ocean. But at the time, aside from snorkeling and bodyboarding, body surfing, things like that, your experience with the ocean has been almost like I'm going to this other area, not I am meant to be in this area. And the spearfishing sort of brought that to me, that I do belong here, and I am able to learn the techniques that I need to go into this animal's environment and habitat and bring home food.
Right. So when you're talking about learning it, how did you learn it?
Terribly. I went through the closet and I grabbed an old surf wetsuit, like a 3-2 surf wetsuit that was falling apart, and somehow, I don't know how he got it, but my brother had like a JBL 60, like a single band 60, and he goes, hey, I'm cleaning out the garage, you want this? And I'm like, oh hell yeah, I've got a spear gun now, right? I didn't even know that was totally inappropriate for what I wanted to do. So I've got in my mind,
I've figured it out.
Well, I've got in my mind this picture of Terry Moss, and now I've got this JBL 60, and I'm like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna go get my tuna now, right? I didn't even know. I had no. So I'm a certified scuba diver. So first I grabbed my Vipers.
Yeah.
I grabbed my surf suit and I grabbed my 60. And I just went to a random beach in Palos Verdes and got in the water, and as is normal here in California, we had about 3 feet of Viz, and I think I shot an opaleye or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And the stoke was on, and I'm like, oh yeah. So then I really started thinking, man, I got to get more serious about it. I got to get the right gear. So I went into my scuba gear and I grabbed my scuba fins, and I'm like, now I'm really going, right?
Yeah.
One step forward, 2 steps back.
Well, it's kind of interesting because, you're talking about, how naive you were, right? And and then here, fast forward, 20 years later or 30, whatever, where the ball's kind of in our court because we've learned all these things. And to be honest, I still feel naive in a lot of ways. Like true students of some, right? You never know. The more you learn, the more I realize how much I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always that, you're constantly, in order to keep that learning curve going, you always want to stay humble because you could teach me probably 10 things and I could teach you the same 10, but kind of tying that all together is like, I try to tell everybody, the guys that know and have the experience, everybody needs to be a little humble. Mm-hmm. I've seen it a lot on social media where you have a young guy and he posts something that's very like obviously like, oh kid, you've got no idea.
Yeah. And
that attitude, the kid might get just lit up,
right.
By everybody. And it kind of pisses me off, to be honest, because I'm like, you were that kid one time too. Mm-hmm. And wouldn't it be great, like, to teach someone, like, just be humble and teach, to get everybody up to speed so that we can all protect the environment, learn to really give a shit about the environment to mm-hmm. begin with, like the ocean, and and all those things. And like, to me, is very much like an insecurity for some people to like just bag on the young guys.
I appreciate the softball segue to the club because honestly, everything you just said is the heart and soul of our club, of the OC Spiros. Right. I went from the absolute wrong gear,
right,
and went into Spear America one day because there was something wrong with the JBL, and I met Petros. And he's like, okay, obviously you've got the wrong gear. He's like, I'm going to sell you the right gun and go join the OC Spiros. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And he says, just go. And the thing that struck me about the OC Spiros was exactly like you were saying, was that we are a magnet for the people that are just getting into the sport. And also, I mean, we've got people ranging from... just starting out to professional divers that are in the club. And I have not yet come across anybody who looks down upon or talks down to or thinks that any question that is ever asked is ridiculous or stupid. I still, I'm one of the directors of the club, and I still try to take that approach that you're talking about. It's a very humble approach when it comes to everybody.
Right.
I'm always asking what I think might be stupid questions still to this day. I dive with some really, really good divers, and I dive with some people that I'm trying to help out. Yeah. And you have something to learn from all of them.
Well, I think a testament to what you're saying about the OC Spiros, and again, like I was never really about clubs and all that stuff, just for no other reason other than I have my friends, I'm good. Mm-hmm. Is that how big that club is?
Yeah.
Like people want to be a part of things. It doesn't matter what it is. Things grow because they're good. Like no one's joining a club because they don't like it.
Right.
Or no one's joining something to feel less than or feel like, oh, I went to the club meeting and everybody was way too cool to even talk to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We even have a portion at the beginning of the club where typically it's Moran or I that run the club meetings, and at the beginning of every meeting we ask if it's anybody's first time at a meeting, and they raise their hand.
Yeah.
And I'm shocked and actually pleasantly surprised by every time someone new raises their hand. There, like I always see the person that's next to them, and like, hey, nice to meet you. Shaking their hands, not like scooting away or maybe poking fun at the noob. It's always like, awesome, you're here, cool. You're part of our tribe now. Like come be part of our community. We want this sport to grow.
Right.
We want this club to grow, and the only way to do that is by being open and nice and accepting of everybody.
Well, and the one thing I will say about new divers, besides the safety aspect, it does get a little stressful when you dive with people who are just new in general. You don't know anything about them.
Yep.
Right? Everybody's got their quirks. But the stoke they feel when they get a yellowtail, and they don't care, or like whatever fish.
Yeah.
But their first yellowtail, because I've had a bunch of friends lately that I've been able to like, while we were diving, they were able to get their first yellowtail or something, and it doesn't matter if it's like 5 pounds or 50.
Yeah.
They're so stoked.
Yeah.
And you just made their whole, like, I say me because we're going out on my boat or whatever, and like always invite the guys, and I'm like, we'll put you on fish, you know.
Yeah.
What a cool, it feels good to hook your boys up.
For both sides.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then they're, you know, they get to go home and they're like, Brad, look what I did with the fish I got, you know. And it's just such a great feeling.
Yeah.
And I find that even in my own life, I get jaded where I was like, oh, yeah, no big deal. It wasn't that big. You know, shooting whatever 20-pound yellowtail, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it gets to that point, that's when I start getting super selective. But like, I remember back in the day where you're so stoked on shooting a calico, anything.
Anything,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
What
Yeah, we
a
were
great gift to share that with people.
And we've been trying to round that whole cycle out
Yeah.
as a club. I understand and I remember as an early diver, you don't even know where to look. Like, of course, you get in the water and you're like, I want to go get a yellowtail.
Right.
But maybe you're not a comfortable diver yet, so you're staying in that 20, 25 feet of water, and you're not necessarily knowing how to read the current or read the structure or anything
Right.
like that. And you end up shooting a couple zebra perch or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Or you shoot
Yeah.
your opali. And you've got your fish, and you're stoked on that, and you want to bring it home, and you want to cook it.
Yeah.
We want to be able to teach our members how to be good enough watermen to know what to do with, anything from their yellowtail to, if you get an opali, great, you have dinner. This is
Yeah.
how you do it. So
Cool.
we teach that whole cycle of, you're a starting diver and you may find your reef fish and not able to do anything else. And now you've accelerated out and you're able to find your pelagics and get that sort of fish.
Right.
But don't forget that there's still food to be found everywhere around you. So if you want to go out today and you want to bring home dinner and you want to have something,
Yeah.
good to eat, understand that there is not just that yellowtail that's out there. You
Right.
can, but the three
Sea cucumbers, dude, anything.
anything.
I love it.
Right? Yeah, you can. So the three goals of
Yeah.
the club is safety, education, and conservation. Right.
Uh-huh.
So the saying of the club has always been: shoot what you eat what you shoot.
Right.
And we try to teach our guys, like, yeah, you could think that you're a badass if you go out there and you have your waist is filled with 25 fish and
Right.
you've just really cleaned up and you've done a great job spearing today, but to what end, right?
Right.
Really pay attention to what you're doing and what you need and only bring back what you need.
Yeah.
And here's not only how to bring it back what you need, but here's how to prepare it well. We just had an event for the club. It was a couple weeks ago.
I saw that. Yeah.
The cooking class.
Yeah.
Where the entire goal of the class was say, okay, now you've caught your spiny lobster. How do you use it? Do you just throw it in boiling water and you're done for it? No, like there's so much that can be done with that entire animal that we put together a cooking class. It was actually, I'll go back to that. So we put together a cooking class that taught our members what to do, how to cook it properly.
Right.
How to not waste any of it, and basically, if you're going out and burning that many calories trying to get this animal,
Yeah.
how do you make it taste the best so you're
Right.
really maximizing your return on investment? Additionally, what it was meant to do is to involve the people that you're leaving at home when you're diving.
Yeah.
It was actually Cheryl, my girlfriend's idea. Like, hey, you need to involve us. Like, you go and you dive, and you're out 6-8 hours in the water, and then sometimes you come home with stuff and sometimes you don't. Like, we need to be involved in this somehow.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It's first of all, it's awesome that you guys did that.
Yeah.
Because I joke around like I'm not a cook.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I would go spearfish, and I never actually really enjoyed eating the fish that I ate, that I shot. I just did it out of obligation because I just took this thing's alive, so I better eat it.
Yeah.
Until honestly, as soon as probably a few years ago, where I've had friends show me like a recipe for dogtooth, a recipe for this, or a recipe for that. And then on the last trip, I went down to Baja with John and my friend Matt, and Matt's family owns a restaurant, a seafood restaurant, and he showed us how to cook leopard grouper and then a few other ways to cook some things, and that trip really just changed everything.
Yeah.
Just because now, not only I shoot things great, but I can actually make it to where my wife, who does most of the cooking,
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh my God, this is great.
Yeah.
Get out of here and go get more fish."
Exactly.
It's a win-win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now that they're involved,
Or grouper, go.
now that they're involved in it, then they have ownership
Yeah.
in the sport as well. Like, it's okay,
Yeah.
you take care of the front half of it. You go and you bring it home, and once it's home, you hand the ball off to me, and now I'm going
Literally.
to carry it to the finish line,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so
And especially with lobster, because there's so many. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of my friends do all these crazy ways to cook stuff. And a bunch of the Rife guys, I don't know if they all got together and were like, "Hey, we got to come up with really cool ways to make." I mean, there's some really good Spearos in the sport locally that are also really good cooks,
Yeah.
and it just changes the game. Like,
we'll have to invite you over sometime. Whenever we get together, whether it's at my house or it's at, typically the three places that we'll meet to get together and cook a lot of stuff is my house, Fernando, another director's house, or Moran, another director's house. And Fernando's wife is constantly sort of commenting on, isn't it amazing that we have like these husbands and boyfriends that we can just sit back and they take over and make these absolute gourmet meals with the stuff that they've gone out and caught on their. I mean, we just had a Friendsgiving at our house. We had about 30 people over. And one of the things that we had as an appetizer was about a 3.5 pound octopus that Fernando and I had got on a recent lobster dive.
yeah.
And, I had that thing and I put it in the sous vide for 4 hours, and then Eric, another one of the directors, had shown up and he took over for me because I was busy, deep frying a turkey. And he took it and threw it on the grill, and we chopped that thing up.
Yeah.
And we had a big pile of octopus that we had got. Moran had brought over some of the yellowfin that he had brought. And we had a bunch of other members, club members there, family members, kids, and everybody was around the table sharing this food that not only that we had gone out, but that as a group we had cooked together and served to the entire family. And it's what I view as a hunter and as a
It connects everybody together, though.
That's exactly
And it
right.
also, I mean, say everybody, but I mean, includes like nature, right? It connects everybody to nature, where it's like, and then your family, but it also, and your kids, right? Then your kids, like, I always hope that my kids, when they get older, they're like, remember Grandpa, or like whatever, like would always go out and get stuff.
Yeah.
And he's such, whatever. But I hope, and then when they get married and their spouses are like, go hunting too.
Yeah.
And like, but I feel like I put a post today where it was like, do you know where your food comes from, And it was like that connection that you have with your food, where it's like, I bled this thing, I stabbed it, I killed it, I gutted it, and like,
and now I'm going to prepare it
now
correctly.
I'm make it,
Yeah.
and make it taste good, hopefully, But I just feel like that is so cool to be able to do that, because with everybody being so, animal rights and like all this stuff, and like me personally too, if I had it my way, I would go out hunting every day, either land and sea, and try to, if I, lived in the old days, I would love that.
But
So I got hungry,
it's a funny thing that you use that term, the old days. It's something that sort of in the back of my mind, I'm always sort of noodling over. And Cameron Haynes put a post about it a couple days ago, where it wasn't the old days. I mean, it wasn't.
Doesn't have to.
It wasn't
right?
that long ago.
Right.
That people like my grandfather, he would go to Colorado every year.
Yeah.
And he'd take one deer and one elk, and he'd fill his freezer and my mom's freezer and my aunt's freezer, and everybody would have meat now. And that was not abnormal. It wasn't like we were weirdos.
Right.
It was just what happened. It was totally normal. And then now there's this strange, people have this strange separation. Like, it's almost as if humans were somehow dropped in from some spaceship, and now here we are just sitting on this earth, and we and the earth are separate, and we are not able to interact with the earth in the way that we always have. And I look at hunting and spearfishing as a natural way that we live here. The food is here. We are part of the food chain. We are the apex predator. And all that does is, you know, the campaign's post, there was somebody that had gone on and say, oh yeah, give that bull elk a bow and see what he does to you. And all that, and okay, like I understand the thought process there. But the idea is yes, humans have progressed to a point to where we do have the means to be very efficient apex predators.
Right.
All that says is that we have to be mindful of our place.
Yeah.
And that's where the conservation comes in. And when I say conservation, I don't mean shut down fisheries and shut down hunting units.
Correct.
It means understand that I do have the ability to go out, and if I were an awful person, I could wipe the place clean. But conservation is, I know the food that I need, I know the meat that I want to put in my freezer to feed my family. Take that much and be happy that you can. And leave the rest for when you come back another day.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been posting a lot of lobster stuff lately, just because I've been going a lot. But when I was diving for work, we talked about before we started filming, I was diving every other day. I mean, at least every day, just diving, bounce diving, and we would find these spots where the dolphins would mark things that were like maybe not targets, but they were just junk or whatever. So you find all these little isolated pockets, right? Real small little reefs or ecosystem, whatever, from junk or whatever. Probably no bigger than this table half the time. Mm-hmm. And you go down there, and so what I look at is I go down there and I could take every lobster on that thing if I wanted to, right?
Easily, yeah.
Like, say there's like 5. And my wife would call me and like, hey, babe, can we have lobster tonight? I'm like, sure, just go get it.
Yeah.
It's really funny because it's true, and it made me like kind of jaded to like, people like, oh, you're going to go hunting at night? I'm like, no, dude, just go get them. Like,
there.
It's the novelty is gone. However, it's not, eating the food that it provides is never gone. It's awesome, right? But I go down there and I would take, like, there would be a 5-pound bug or something. I'd just take one, and then I would take one and I'd come bring it home. And chop it up little pieces, saute or whatever, and make lobster burritos, because like one bigger sized bug can like feed the whole family.
Yeah.
And then I would have a little rule. Then I'd go back, like if we hit that same spot again in a couple of weeks or something, I'd grab another one.
Yeah.
Well, lately what I noticed with those small, intimate little reefs, and I showed a couple of friends, and so they were going. So when I noticed, is that I'm going down there and the lobster are getting smaller and fewer, and then a couple of times we've been on, I'm like, dude, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys, and they're newer guys, I was like, boys, you got to just let up a little bit.
Right.
And we've been like kind of hitting it hard because friends have asked and things like that, and it's the holidays, so everybody's like wants lobster, you know. And what I just noticed by increasing the frequency just a little bit of how often we hit those spots, because they're so small, it's like a microcosm of a bigger reef, we've pretty much killed the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doing that on a much smaller grade really did show me the impact in which, one diver or 2 divers increasing the frequency of diving just a little bit where I didn't necessarily need to. I just wanted to feed the freezer and hook my boys up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's the idea with the education and conservation, right? Is we have to, as you get more experience and as you have the time in the water to see our effect on the different spots and on the fishery, you have to understand that we do have the ability to wipe something out.
Right. Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah,
so
especially with how efficient we are, the big commercial guys too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen when you go out for bluefin, it's like the signers went there and then all of a sudden it's dead for 3 days, and they just took a mile of fish.
We've got planes. We've got planes that can tell you exactly, and helicopters that tell you exactly where the fish are. So, and that's all fine.
Yeah.
If the idea is that you want to go out and you want to be respectful of the fishery, and you don't want to just kill that whole school,
right?
Use your planes, use your helicopters, go get your fish, be respectful of what you've got, and then go home and share it with your family and prepare it properly. Right. But don't use your plane and your helicopter and your seiners to go out there and clean out the entire fishery. You need to be educated enough to understand that we, as an apex predator, we can't. We need to be mindful. It's like we're shepherds, right? And the sheep are the fish, and we've got to make sure that there's enough sheep to keep.
We can have lamb every day if we just take one.
That's exactly right.
And then take one.
Right.
Not slaughter them all that day and then go, oh, damn.
You slaughter your herd that day and you put it, you've got a great freezer for a while.
Yeah.
What do you do in a couple months from now?
Right, now it's over.
Right.
Now
so that is a big deal that we push within our club at the club meetings, whether we're talking about safety or we're talking about conservation, the different speakers that we have come, they're all centered around that notion of be a better diver, be a better waterman, and just be a good hunter. Not
steward of the ocean.
Right, and a good hunter doesn't necessarily mean I go out and kill the most.
Right.
Does not mean that.
So my friend in Guam, I've referenced him quite a few times, but is Dr. Michael Orr. But his big thing is his conservation, right? Because obviously he has, he's a professor in biology and things like that, and he's just like, we really want to push, conservation, and our kind of thing was like, how do we do that? Like, because we all sit here and we all say conservation, right? And then we turn around and we throw up pictures of all these fish, and everybody's like, yeah, right, bro, conservation. But I think it's the intangible things that you don't see, that people, that really are where the conservation, it's the mindset, like what you're talking about. Like for me, it's, I'll never pay for tuna. Why? I'll never buy tuna at a store. And there's nothing wrong with tuna at a store or anything like that. I just feel like, you know what? If I don't have tuna in the freezer, it gives me an excuse to go get one.
Yeah.
I think it's really overfished, so there's little species or little codes that I've developed from myself, and there's nothing wrong with anything if anybody wants to do it. It's just a personal thing that I have for myself that kind of holds me accountable to saying, yeah, you talk the talk, you're talking all this shit.
Yeah.
So my thing is like, yeah, I will never buy bluefin or tuna. I say bluefin, at sushi restaurants or wherever. Just it's delicious.
Yeah.
But I just try to live. Take one little thing and try to hang my hat on it to try to help. I guess. I could be totally wrong.
No. I think it's the right mindset.
Yeah, it's just something.
Yeah.
And when we went to Baja, it was interesting. The boys, we had some brand new guys, and they wanted to shoot, yellowtail. And we're like vortex by these 15, 20 pound yellowtail.
Yeah.
And it was funny because they're so dense, and I lost my camera because one of them smacked it off my head. But it was funny because I'm sitting there at the bottom, and it wasn't even very deep either. It was ridiculous. It was so easy.
Yeah.
Just getting vortex by these yellowtail, and I was like, just get out of the way. They're like mosquitoes.
I need to find a gulfie.
That, and I just wanted that. I was trophy. I wanted that 50-pound yellowtail. That I hear about. And but it was so cool to sit back and just get I feel like a spearfisherman, you get those images that people see in National Geographic, and at the same time I'm telling these stupid yellowtail to get out of the way. I'm just looking around. I was like, man, I gotta bring my son down here. This is the coolest shit ever.
Yeah.
And then we all got our 40-pound plus yellowtails.
Yeah.
But I think I shot 3 fish that whole trip.
Right.
I
think that's another thing that people don't understand about spearfishing is that we do have the ability to be selective.
Very selective.
We can go and say, we can have a target in mind and wait to find that fish. So once you learn a little bit of responsibility in your hunting,
right,
then you can take that to the water and be very, very selective.
Yeah, we always have our hit list, right? We straight up put a hit list. Okay, here's the deal. My wife wants leopard grouper, so I got to at least get that off the board first.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I'll move on to this.
And it's not you're just soaking bait and whatever you catch, right? It's not that at all. It's you're down there looking at what you're. You talk about that National Geographic moment. We were in Baja, and I think it was May or June, and the bait, it wasn't even a bait ball, it was like a bait river that went for 7-8 miles along the coast. It was maybe 30 yards from shore, and it was just this cylinder of bait that, and every time, you dive down into the bait and it would make the bubble around you, you'd feel like you're in the silver spaceship, or you could have the experience of diving down to the bottom underneath it, and it was night because they were so dense above you that it was dark.
Too. It's weird.
And then every fish that you got just had the bait.
And you're always wondering what's coming through the bait too, because you can't see.
Can't see anything.
You're swimming through. You're like, am I going to run right into something? I don't know what the hell it is.
Many times you did. Many times there was a big gulf or something swimming through those that you found, and you don't get that experience sitting on a boat.
That kind of goes back to I always call it, and I mentioned it the last, about the first. I still have first in the ocean. I've growing up, I've surfed. I started surfing when I was young, and then I still and then traveling the world through work and stuff. I still have these firsts that happen when it's just like, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This is so awesome. And just almost running over a friggin' marlin the other day,
Yeah.
Here? Yeah,
Oh,
here.
wow.
It was a couple months ago, but it was like, oh shit, I saw a marlin.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then seeing a whale shark for the first time, years ago, and then just different stuff like that.
Well, we were in Baja in February or March, and Fernando's the guy, another good friend of mine, another director, and he's the guy on the boat that somehow is always the first one in the water. I don't know how he gets his gear on so quickly, but he's the guy. He's in the water right now. And we pulled up on a spot and looked over the side, and I mean, from you to me away, there's a baby gray whale sort of just cruising right there, and he's like, I'm in! And dove over and got to swim with the gray whale. I'm like, and you just don't...
I've had that.
These are things that are just, the
I may have broken a few laws along the way, I guess. I have a video that will not get released, and I can deny it, I guess, but I kind of high-fived a whale one time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my wife was like, you guys sound like a bunch of schoolgirls.
It's rad.
I fucking touched it! Flipping out. It was just it's so cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like a 40-year-old man jumping around in my boxers because I wasn't prepared to jump in on this thing, but I just saw it and it was like, oh my God, it's right here.
You got to get in.
Let me see if it'll let me swim with it.
That's a cool thing that the club does is, you as an individual, you may want to do these things, but you don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And maybe if you're not a hyper type A outgoing person, maybe you don't have the motivation to get out there and do it.
Right.
But within the club, there's tons of guys that are going to be there to help you along the way.
Yeah.
And really say, okay, it's not that scary.
Right.
Here's a few pointers. Either you can do it with me, or here, I'll get you started along the path.
Well, there's a sense of vulnerability to put yourself out there, right?
Yeah.
You see it in social media, people talk shit, pardon me, but people talk trash or whatever, but to put yourself out there, I think it takes courage for even as a grown man, to put yourself out. So you go to a club and you're basically admitting hey, I don't know everything.
Right.
I need help,
to
do this.
Yeah.
And it's cool that people are still
I think that's why the club is, especially in the past 3 years, has been exponentially growing. It's because we're so welcoming. Nobody ever has to feel that way. Nobody ever has to feel oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell them how I missed a shot on an opal eye.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Tell me, give me the whole story so I can help you learn.
Do you know how many shots I've blown?
Right.
I try to tell everybody this.
Yeah.
There's no newsflash, everybody. Spearfishing isn't really that hard. It's a lot about opportunity and time in the water, but there are those moments where it is hard.
Yep.
And then there's all those moments when you completely blow shit, and that's what I mean. Those moments keep you humble, and I laugh about that because I wanted to put together a compilation of all missed shots.
Send it to Spear Channel.
Dude, look, reality.
Yeah. And that's the cool part about our group is that we welcome those stories, and we're not oh, you idiot.
You learn through failure.
It was tell us the full story so we can try to dissect what to do next time.
Right. My son swims at the fish and tries to chase it.
Right.
I try to tell him, look, dude, he's faster in the water than you are, so stop doing that.
Right. And with a gun out in front of you and fins back behind you, you're 12 feet long.
Right.
You look like a giant predator.
Right.
What would you do?
Yeah. I just think that to be, human, right, is to err, I guess, whatever the hell it is. But the point is that there's with social media nowadays, everybody shows this whole look at me, giant fish, whatever. But I mean, God, man, I've fucked up so many things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough to survive things that were bad and learn and.
Yeah, there's a new member that I was talking to the other day that was getting frustrated that that the acceleration of ability wasn't happening quicker.
Yeah.
And my advice was slow down,
let go.
Enjoy the road.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to be at the destination. Enjoy the road because you will never get to the destination.
Yeah. Once you get to where you think you want to go, you're going to want to go farther.
You're going to want to go
diving, right? Free diving.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible free diver.
Yeah.
I'll admit it, in the grand scheme of things, I get a throat squeeze, probably, I don't know what the hell's up in my throat. anytime I go around 80 feet, and like, but people are like, wow, 80 feet, that's deep. I'm like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And it's also 80 feet for me is like, okay,
Yeah.
here we go.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, you don't necessarily, being a good freediver doesn't mean you're necessarily a good spearfisherman either.
Yeah, it's
there's
just
different areas to learn. You know,
you'll never stop. You know, like I build my own guns now. Like so that's a whole
me
nother
too.
rabbit hole you go down.
Oh,
Like
God.
there's all these different things that you will
Time.
learn along the way.
Yeah.
That you never
love
thought you would have at the starting point. You never would have thought that was
Yeah.
there. But if you learn to accept the journey,
Yeah.
it's just going to make your entire time in
What's
this.
up, big girl? Sorry. It's okay. Come on.
It just you'll find that you'll enjoy your career. You know, obviously not professional career, but your
Yeah,
career
like
as a waterman more in its entirety than you
Right.
will to try to think that there is some sort of end that you're going to get to that is the enjoyment. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I mean. Those guys that I first took out and they're shooting, you know, certain species of fish for their first time, they're so stoked. Like,
And then once they shoot their yellowtail, they've got their eyes set on the bluefin. And it's
Yeah.
like, great. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But get on that path and get out there and do it.
right. And in order to do it, you know, there's learning that occurs. And then next thing you know, you've kind of, I don't want to say mastered because I've never mastered anything. And then, damn, it seems like fish change all the time,
Yeah.
depending on the school. But like before you know, you've developed this big volume of experience that helps you get better, and you start getting more efficient and more
Yeah.
efficient. But then as you get more efficient, then you realize like my frequency of which I go out maybe can change, or I'll just change of which I'm doing. Like maybe I'll only go out for bluefin 3 times this year rather than 30 times
Yeah.
the year before. Because I know if I go out 3 times, I can get one. you
Right.
know?
Right. You've
Yeah.
learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I can go somewhere else. I'll go to Baja this year.
And you also learn, you know, if you're being a responsible hunter, you could have that efficiency and do the 30 times.
Yeah.
But now what are you doing to the fishery?
Right.
You know, and do you really need that much fish?
I don't, and that's the thing. Like, yeah, my friend, he's one of my buddies, Hawaiian. He shot a 210 or something one year. It was years ago years ago. It was like 2016 or something. And he was like, "Yep, I'm done. I don't need to go. Like,
Right.
what? I got 180 pounds of meat. Like,
Right.
What the hell do I?"
What else do you
Yeah.
need for the year?
And that's fun because I think hunting sometimes on deep reef I don't really particularly care to go hunt tuna.
Well, you know, for me, you know, for my land hunting,
Yeah.
I went to Colorado. I guess that was October, and I
Yeah.
filled an elk tag. So when I
Nice.
got home and I had my 2 California deer tags, I just
Yeah.
threw them up, or tore them up.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. I don't need any more.
I had some friends of mine that just went hunting in Colorado.
Yeah.
They didn't get anything, but I was just thinking, like, I've never hunted big game like that.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, dude, yeah, when you shoot animal that weighs that, be like, God damn.
Yeah,
like,
after I butchered it, I had 180 pounds of meat in my freezer.
God, it's so good.
Why would I need to go get another
Right.
60 pounds of mule deer? I don't.
Wow.
You know, like,
I'll take somebody out.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
Take somebody out fishing, or I'll take, the boys out, whatever. Like, yeah. But that's that journey, and I don't know. It's just wild.
yeah,
It's just.
absolutely.
Oh man, hunting's so much fun. In the water or out of the water, I got into boar hunting in Guam, pig hunting, and I didn't like the tree stand because you're just sitting there. It was like the most boringest shit on the planet to me. However, the very first time I went, I was bow hunting. I drew back on a pig, and my girls were gonna hate me because I shot a pig if I shot one, but it like sniffed up and then bounced. I was waiting for it to take like one more step.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. It's the first time I really hunted. Like my family never hunted it. My dad would go get abalone and stuff diving, but like never hunted. And I just drew back and I was waiting for him to take one step to get in the clear so I could try to hit him in the heart, obviously. And he just like saw his nose up and he bounced.
Yeah.
He smelled me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know all that till like afterwards. Like, well, what happened there? I was like, oh, he must have smelled you.
Wind changed, and
Yeah. But the cool thing about it is like, just like spearfishing and bow hunting and spearfishing are kind of similar as far as projectile and the sensitivity of where you got to hit the thing. What I've learned from my last trip to Guam where we did pig hunting and, you know, my thing was I really wanted to get a big dog tooth, big for my standards. And we lost 10 dog tooth to the point where we had like a little group meeting.
Yeah.
And we're like, dude, we gotta get our shit together. This isn't right.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, we're blowing shot, I mean, we're hitting fish, wounding fish, and ripping off. We're not making smart shots, like, including myself. I would take these Hail Mary shots because I knew
Overeager.
I knew that, and I knew the gun could make the shot. But what happens is that it's my little, yeah, she's real shy. What happens is that you don't get the right penetration, or you don't hit it in the right spot. You kind of, you know, so and. What I learned was, like, more importantly, it's closing that distance is the most important thing, and taking the right shot. And it's funny because in bow hunting, it's the exact same shit.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you're not gonna land that.
And it's not just the distance. It's you want the right posture. You know, the
Right.
animal has to have the right posture. It has to be set up perfectly. When I first started dating my girlfriend, when she found out that I was a hunter, it was nearly a deal breaker for her.
Right.
But it's because she never had any exposure to hunting, and she had imagined that. You know, the typical person that doesn't know what a hunter is imagines some crazy redneck that's drunk and kills an animal and then dances on it.
Yeah, they do exist.
They do exist, but they're
no
the significant minority in my experience of hunters. And once she realized that,
and other hunters will tear those people to pieces, man.
Tear them up. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, once she realized that it is important to me, like I will not pull the trigger or not let a shaft fly on an animal that isn't set up perfectly, where I can have at least a 99% surety that that animal is going to go down quickly.
Yeah.
You don't take the shot. You know, sometimes something weird happens, and like let's say you let a shaft fly, and you know you're bow hunting and it hits a branch, but sometimes it happens, and that is terrible. But you really try to do your homework and gain a level of maturity to understand that this is real, and you're trying to take a life. Make sure that it counts.
Yeah, I care about every. I mean, I don't care if it's a fish or not. You know, I guess I don't take lightly. It's really funny because of my nature of my work, but I don't take lightly taking a animal's life, or for that matter, like a senseless killing or something. Like you know, I mean, I get like the animal died. So that I could survive, basically, right? And my wife always jokes around, like, or we could go to the grocery store.
An animal still died.
An animal still died.
Yeah.
It's still the same. You know what? And I guarantee you that animal probably didn't meet its demise in the same way that I'm doing it.
Didn't spend 100% of its life walking around in the wild, you know, eating.
Probably elbows deep in shit, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, cows or whatever. Like, again, I know where the food came from, and I know how it was treated, you know. So if I can do that as far as conservation-wise, make a point of, like, trying to minimize my footprint in, you know, the big commercial industry, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
Yeah.
You know? I'll never pay for a lobster. Are you kidding
me?
Like,
there's no reason.
No.
Yeah, they're right here.
Yeah, like, it's cheaper. I'm cheap.
Right,
So, yeah,
exactly.
And, I'll, you know, and if our freezer gets low, then that's just an excuse for me to go out and go hunting again, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, just my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really cool to share, to honestly just share the food, the fish with other people that maybe not even into hunting, but they're like, hey, Brett, you got any of this or that?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll buy it off you. I'm like, no, dude.
Yeah, it's just, that's not the point. No. The point is I want to share this with you. Yeah.
I would like to give you, so that's always good stuff. Let's get into a little, so the Visi bags thing. So Visi bags, you are the co-owner of that. You started the Visi bags thing?
Yeah, so I own that with my teenage daughter.
Your daughter? Right.
Yeah.
Whose name is with
Kylie Thompson, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it started with an idea of, because I hunt, because I fish, I have a huge freezer full of stuff, right, that we live off of throughout the year.
Right.
And I'd always use the food saver bags like everybody else does, you know, or the cheaper, whatever's on Amazon on sale is what I would buy.
Yep.
And the problem that I found with that is as you, like, let's say you get an elk, right? And now you've got 180 pounds of meat, and you've also put a couple yellowtail in the freezer, and you've got a few months worth of food.
Right.
Well, as I would want to go and cook something, and I was digging through, everything looked exactly the same in the bag. So I've got this negative, 14-degree freezer.
Yeah.
My hands were hurting as I was digging through. I couldn't find anything, and I thought,
Got the same problem.
yeah, I thought, man, I gotta find like a color coding system or something. So I went on Amazon and I searched for colored vacuum seal bags.
Right.
And I couldn't find anything. So I thought, well, hey, I'll just find a way to make them on my own. They can't be expensive. It can't be hard to do.
I guess the regular bags, right, you can write on them. People write on them and like, hey, But what I find half the time is, like you said, over the course of time. And, I always don't have a Sharpie, and I don't want to just, like, it's just too simple just to make colored. Like,
yeah.
It makes sense.
And people, like I found that people use it for different things. Like I have a friend, Nigel, a guy in the club that he only goes out and gets fish.
Yeah.
So he color codes his different fish species, whereas I color code, like at home, I'll color code my red meat versus my poultry and pork versus my fish versus versus my vegetables. Right. So we'll freeze those.
I was thinking, like, with hunting, like certain cuts of the animal too. You might want to do that.
That's how my brother does it. So my brother is only a land hunter.
Right.
And so he'll use the different colored bags for, like, exactly like you're saying, different cuts of meat. So he'll have his roasts in one color, and he'll have his straps in another color, and his ground in another color.
Yeah, we do the fish species, like, because I use them too, and we do. I started using them. We do the fish species because I remember, like, I gave someone a bunch of leopard grouper, which was like a cardinal sin in my house.
Yeah, don't
and
give that away.
I gave him yellowtail, and I was like, oh fuck. And she was like not happy with me.
See, you would have known if you would have had them color coded. You would have known. Yeah.
And then the last trip it was all color coded.
Yeah.
And it's
another. So I have another friend, Andres, who he travels a lot spearing with people. So they'll use it to color code each person's fish.
Oh, okay, cool.
So if there's 4 guys
and
they're all vacuum sealing, like, okay, my bag's going to be yellow, yours are going to be blue, yours are going to be red, and so they'll.
Is it just yellow, red, and
we
blue?
have 6 colors.
Oh,
so
okay.
light blue, dark blue, yellow, red, pink, and green.
Okay.
So you can have a ton of different ways that you can color code your own personal system in the freezer.
Nice.
Yeah. So so basically I just. I've done production in Asia for my real job.
Which is?
So I've always been an apparel manufacturer.
Okay.
I owned one of Orange County's largest apparel factories for a long time. And then when I sold that, my parents own a running apparel brand called BOA. And so when I sold the factory, they said, hey, we don't really want to work as much. Would you come back and help run the show for us? So I've been doing that now for about 5 years, running their business. So I'm used to
the process.
Yeah. So with the running brand, we do all of our production in the U.S. And actually, since I've come back, I've moved it 100% in house. But we do our raw materials sourcing overseas for litany of reasons. But I'm used to the notion of going overseas to source and manage things coming in. So it wasn't such a big deal for me to say, well, I actually originally tried to make them in the U.S. I do like the patriotic angle of it, but that's not the reason why you make in the U.S.
To be honest, and we all, like, I travel a lot too, but especially for a small business, make it in the U.S., that's great, but, like, at the same time, in order for a small business to survive, like, you're in the business to make money. You know what I mean?
The way that I was able to grow my apparel factory into one of the biggest around was I could sit down with a controller of an apparel brand, and I could plead a case where it was actually cheaper to manufacture in the U.S.
Okay.
Once you factored into cash flow,
transport,
cash flow, damages, like, because once it's here, it's yours. They're not taking it back.
Right.
So once and then also you have to have a staff to manage it overseas. You're sending them overseas multiple times a year. Once you take all those line items on the balance sheet and you can remove them, and you say make in the U.S., it's not that much more expensive to make it here. Plus
Cool.
it's fast.
That's good stuff. That's
Plus
good to
it's
hear.
faster.
Uh-huh.
Plus you can easily be
more
on
control,
site.
too,
You have more
right?
control. You can. So that's why when I originally came back to the family business, I said, okay, everything's got to be made here, and I was managing groups of contractors in the local area.
Right.
Well, I said, well, the reason I'm doing that is because of speed and control. I can have even more speed and more control if I move it all in-house. So
Right.
it took about 2.5 years, and I was able to sort of phase out all of our contractors and move it in-house. So the ultimate goal of Visi, if it ever worked, would be ultimately to be manufacturing them in-house. I mean, that's a ways down, because the machinery costs are so
right.
high. But
Yeah.
I've already proven through the family business that it is cheaper to make it in the U.S. So especially if you're making it yourself, it's cheaper
Right.
to make it here than it is to manage the make and import
But it
from
seems like
overseas.
it's a much larger investment up front though, right?
It is.
Because now like you want to make it in house, but you've got to get machines. You've got I've seen this with like CNC machines and things like that. Like I can go to the guy down the street who has a metalworks place and he can make it for me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, damn, like if I was moving enough product, it would make sense for me to purchase a machine for myself and just do it then. If I could get to that point of moving enough inventory.
That's exactly right, and that's exactly what I was doing with the local contractors, was getting us to a point to where we could slowly, like the first thing I did in-house was I created a sample room. So as we were developing new product,
Right.
we can make all our samples and hone in the different prototypes and make them right now and on-site. Now that everything is 100% in-house, I have so much flexibility that, let's say my design team comes up with a new idea. I can have that from idea into product into the photo booth on the website literally the same day. I can have that done. So now instead of when I was working in Asia, when it would take months, like I would have to plan a year and a half out.
Right, because they're producing just.
Yeah, you've got water time, you've got development time, you've got all, and it's just slower.
And you have to physically go, right?
You have to be there on site,
'Cause you don't
otherwise.
know what the hell you're getting.
Well, otherwise now you could be doing it via FedEx, but now you've got $60 of FedEx packages going back and forth however
Right.
many times.
Yeah.
Whereas I can take the idea and walk out to the person who's making that product and stand with them and say, no, that's not right. Let me walk back over here and do
Right.
something else and start over. And
And there's import costs too associated with all of that too when you're going from overseas to bringing it to the U.S. Right? You're paying a much different tax and.
Yeah, it's funny,
Tariffs and
the
all that
freight to get something here is actually really, really cheap. But once you get the duties and the dock fees piled on, I mean, they're like
you're paying for that ship to be at that harbor and those longshoremen to
That's exactly
unload it
right.
and all of that, yeah.
the fees and the taxes are 10x of what the freight is. The freight is some little tiny amount
Right.
to get it here, but
Yeah.
then all the rest of the stuff piles up, and it really does. It makes it so anyone who is willing to take a look at the actual cost of production overseas
Right.
will easily see that it far exceeds. No, it doesn't exceed. It is, if you were to look at it in dollars and cents, it still is a little bit cheaper in dollars and cents to produce
Right.
overseas. But when you factor in the opportunity cost of, I can have an idea and ship it and make that product today, the
Right.
opportunity cost of sales far outweighs those savings that you have of it. Because now you have,
It seems that where you're at in the stages of business or whatever it is, really where you're at kind of justifies what, or how much capital you have to start with, kind of what your strategy you're gonna do, I guess, right?
yeah, I think so.
I'm not a business person, so.
Yeah, I think if you take the standpoint of, you have your long-term goal,
Yeah,
and instead of just thinking, man, that goal seems so far away, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to do that.
right.
But you just have the stomach to take a step towards that goal,
Right.
and just be happy that you made that step, and then the next step, suddenly, after
Stepping stones,
X
yeah.
amount of time, you realize that, wait a minute, that goal isn't actually that far away.
Right.
Because I've made these little steps along the way to get there. It's the same thing with Visi. It's like,
Yeah,
I want to create a new company to make vacuum seal bags.
Cool.
I've never made a vacuum seal bag.
Right.
I don't know how to do that. What's the first step? Google how to make vacuum seal bag.
right.
And now you've made a step. And now you have a little bit of information that gives you a little bit more confidence to take that next step. So I don't know. I was
So then, like, okay, so this is, I mean, I'm glad we're talking about this, because this is kind of what I wanted to go over. For all those guys out there that have ideas and things like that, like we all do, everybody's got an idea, right? But to get your idea from out of your head into something that's tangible and physical and, like, moving forward, that's a whole nother level. And then it takes capital, somewhat of like some bit of money, to get it going from an idea to something that is a product that you can sell, right? How, from a business standpoint, did you decide, your first step was you Googled what the hell basically is it, how do I make a vacuum bag? Then from that point, what was your next approach? Like, okay, I figured out how to do that. Where can I get these made, or what?
Yeah, so we live in a world now where all the information that you could ever want is literally one keystroke away.
That's amazing.
And so all you have to do is just brainstorm questions. And I have this thing where I work with Post-it notes, so the little sticky back Post-it notes.
Yeah.
And I will try to brainstorm whatever that long-term path is, and I'll write each individual thing on a Post-it note, and I'll stick it on a wall.
Okay.
In no particular order. And then you stand back and you look at it and you say, okay, what is priority? What do I need to do first? And then you start reorganizing those things. And I think the biggest asset to anybody who wants to do anything on their own is to not be afraid to totally fail. To say that I'm going to try this and I may lose every bit of time, money, everything that I put into this. Doesn't matter. Like, you have to be willing to take that risk. I mean, I've started, sold, and killed multiple businesses in my life. I mean, and the ones that you kill sometimes cost money, and sometimes cost a lot of money. I mean, there was one business deal that I had that went completely sideways, and I lost every dollar that I had ever earned in my entire life.
Right.
I literally went to flat broke. And it was one of those things where it was like, ouch.
Right.
And you take a step back, and I did the same thing with the Post-it notes. I said, okay, what are the things that I did? What got me to the place where I am right now, where I'm broke?
Yeah.
Where I had my daughter's college, was done, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
What did I do to get here? Put those things up on the wall again, and I'm like, all right, time to recalibrate.
Well, and that's a mindset thing too, right? I mean, you can't be afraid to fail. You learn more through failure than anything, it seems like. That's where you learn a lot. If you never failed, it's like then you never really learned anything. You just did what you did, and if it worked great.
Yeah.
When you fail, it forces you to take a step back. Unless, I'm going to get on my tangent, unless you're a victim, then you go, poor me.
Yeah.
But if you are someone that, is always hungry, I guess, or just has a good mentality, take a step back and look at what you did and learn from it, and then develop another approach. I mean, it's like fighting. I talk about fighting because I used to fight or whatever, and it's like, if you go and get your ass kicked, right? Because it's going to happen. I mean, everybody's had their ass kicked. I don't care who you are, it's going to happen. Like, all the great ones, they've had their guy. It might have been at the top, but they've had their guy, right? You take a step back and like, what did he do that worked that I didn't do?
Right.
So then you go back to the drawing board on Monday and you start working at it. You don't get your ass kicked and then take your ball and go home.
That's exactly right.
And that's fighting. That's anything in life. It's like, that's what you tell your kids all the time.
I'm big on history. Like, I love listening to history podcasts, reading books on history. And the one thread that flows through all history is that history is made by people who are unwilling to say no.
Right.
That are unwilling to get, beat down and stay down. They just say, they're willing to get beat down.
Yeah.
So they do have the willingness for that to happen.
They're willing to die.
They do not have the willingness to say that this is the end.
Right.
And I think that, obviously you can't compare.
It's going against the status quo.
Yeah, you can't compare business ownership to like society creation, right? But you do have to have that idea of, I will try, and I know that there is a very strong, and in reality, in the business world, there's far more of a possibility that you will fail than you will succeed.
Right.
That is the reality.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to try it, eventually you may find something that works.
Right.
And if you do that, and if you do find something that works, then you necessarily should be paid handsomely for it. That's the way that I see the world.
I mean, how many times you sit back and you're like, oh shit, well played, sir.
Yeah.
I cannot believe you came up with that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I kind of even felt like that with the Visi bags. I was like, oh my god.
Everybody I've shown them to. Everybody I've shown it to is like, oh yeah, why didn't I do that? Like, originally I was thinking, like, honestly, my original thought when I couldn't find them online was I better go buy some construction paper and stick some things of construction paper in there. I tried it and it actually ruined the meat that was inside because it carried some sort of bacteria.
Dye or something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I'm like, all right, that's not going to work. So what's the next thing that I can do?
Okay.
Like, so the next thing was these bags and everybody that's seen it was just like, oh yeah.
Well, it's even like this whole podcast crap, right? Like the first one, my buddy was like, to be honest, bro, I couldn't listen all the way to the Boz one because the audio was so bad. And I said, okay, that's good. That's good. I need to know that.
I said the same thing to Cheryl on the way down here. Yeah. I said, the one with...
And it doesn't hurt my feelings.
The one with you and John...
Yeah.
There was a lot of the times when you were too far away from the mic and I couldn't hear anything that you were saying, and there was a noticeable difference between that one and the one with Boz. You could tell that you had learned and that you had started to enunciate and you had started to...
And the problem with the Boz one is that it was via... He's in South Africa, so it was like, okay, before I do another one over the phone or something, I got to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
So right now I'm going to focus on this, and I'm going to put that question like a sticky. I'm going to put it over here, and we're going to address that later.
Yeah.
But like, okay, so, and that's just it. You just, as you do it, it gets better and better and better.
Yeah, you're constantly, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you're in a constant mode of putting out fires.
Right.
As a CEO and an owner, you can never let anyone know that there are fires all over the place. Because you can't. You just can't tell them that.
That's how it is. Leadership's like that.
That's how it is. So you've got it with those Post-it notes, whether metaphorical or real, like I use the real.
The burden of leadership is what we call at West Point.
Right.
Like
you have to prioritize.
Yeah.
And you can't let any of it beat you up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And as soon as that you lose your calm is the moment that you know that, wait a minute, time to back up.
Right.
Time to stop for a minute, recalibrate, and get back to the calm and get back to prioritizing which fire needs put out first.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, obviously trying to monetize or make money off stuff. And it's like, okay, well, once I start making money off stuff, how do I got to do like my taxes and stuff. And it was definitely one of those like, slow down here.
Yeah.
Let's just slow down.
First things first.
Yeah, we start worrying about like making this business into an official business, not a hobby.
Well, that was, and to go back to the OC Spiros, that was a hurdle we went through about 2 years ago, where the club really was kicking into high gear, and the world was taking notice. And we're like, okay, it's time to get serious.
How many members are there now?
So I was speaking with Fernando, I think it was last week, and we're somewhere hovering either just above or just below 200 right now. We're looking at a pretty significant expansion here in 2020.
Your group, though, OC Spiros and Friends, right on Facebook.
Oh, that's thousands.
That's like 1,500 or something, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So we have reach to them, and when you look at our other social media, if you look at Instagram or anything like that, I mean, the views and the likes that we get on Instagram are stupid. I mean, like if we post a video on Instagram, it gets a similar amount of likes and views as, say, Spear Channel, which everybody knows is, a really big deal. So as we started, we were doing the right things and the gas got poured on the fire and we're like, it's time to get real now. So we went and we got an attorney to formalize our bylaws, formalize our corporate structure, and actually he was able to go in and petition for us to become a 501c3 public benefit corporation, which means that initially the state denied us. They said that's not going to work, but it's California, and the IRS came back and said, yeah, no. They overruled the state's findings, and the IRS said, yeah, you guys absolutely are a public benefit entity. And what that means is that the club makes no profit.
Yeah.
Every dollar or every piece of gear or everything that we take in is given back to the membership in some way or another.
Right.
Through events, like subsidizing the cooking class. Like the cooking class was normally would have, if you just were Joe Schmo on the street, would have been $89 a person. We were able to do it for $28 a member. We've got a trip to Baja coming in June, where we've got
Or is it like secret or what?
No, you've been there. It's to Congrejos.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to Congrejos in June, and we signed up 32 members over a period of I think it's like 12 days. We'll be spacing them out over 12 days.
Yeah.
For basically less than Pedro's cost because we're subsidizing. You know,
Right.
like we have this ability to get.
That's awesome.
It's what we're trying to do as a board. We work every single day. Like I was having a discussion with Moran the other day, and he's like, "Look, you got to understand that if this stops becoming fun, you're doing something wrong."
Right.
And my point was, it doesn't. Yeah, if it's a burden, and if it's stressful, and if it's killing you, then we're doing it wrong. But we do have a responsibility as a board to work our asses off.
Everything turns into work eventually.
For the community, yeah, and we've
It's
built
just
this.
what you get out of that, though. Is it worth it in the end, right?
I think so, because I think, like, from a personal point of view, is I'm somebody that I'm somebody where we're not, you know, the board members, we make nothing from the club, but I get to look at the work that I put into it as turning into something important to the sport.
Right.
We're taking a lot of newer guys that don't know anything about it, and we're giving them the tools that they need to be able to get through the community and learn.
Well, and diving too, it's inherently dangerous, you know, and if you can have a way to teach people about how to be, you know, safer and learn from other people's mistakes, what a great tool that is, because I talked about it on the last one, and it's like I have made mistakes and I was fortunate to survive it or whatever, like where I was like, well, that could have been really bad.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to share that with people, but when you're in a club, now you could share it with 200 people.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And when I first started diving, again, I was naive, ignorant.
Right.
I didn't know what I didn't know, and I did a lot of diving by myself. Like I did
that for years.
I would run up to PV and be swimming in the kelp by myself, and you know, I was getting more and more and more comfortable in the water. Totally comfortable, feeling great. And there was one day when I just had like one of my best dives ever, and I felt like nothing was going wrong. And at one point in the dive, I'm like, this isn't right. I should not be this confident and this comfortable. I need to go get myself some education.
Yeah.
So I went and I found FII, and Jeremy Calkins was my instructor. I got my level 1 certification.
He's in the club.
He's one of the board members as well. Yeah. Eric Jensen's also an FII instructor. He's another one of the board members in the club. And I went and I got myself certified in level 1, and I just realized, I'm like, wow, like.
You had no idea how much you didn't know.
How much I didn't know, and how much, like, with some education that I can. There's never any guarantee that you're going to be safe, but there are practices that you can take that will make it so your diving is so much safer. And obviously the first rule always is never dive alone. Right. And so that was the one thing, like, okay, I got to stop diving alone.
Which is hard, you know, for sea bass.
It is.
I say that, but more importantly, it's like, and it's weird in California where they may not have the best viz. So diving down but there's ways to do it with a partner.
You got to communicate.
There is. Yeah.
There's okay. This may be 10 feet today, and I am hunting at 30. So, but I will be heading in this general direction.
Yeah.
And you know that my hunting, you know, my downtime is whatever.
Right. It's not 5 minutes.
Right. It's a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, with FII, I learned how to I have no viz. I can't see my diver. How do I start searching?
Right.
Right. So like there are ways that you that you can teach and you can learn to.
I guess it's calculated risk. It's not about being naive. It's okay. Here are the risks today. How are we going to mitigate?
Exactly.
Try to mitigate it, right?
And you have and with a partner, it's all about communication.
Right.
You know, before, during, and after. I guess not during the dive, but before and after the dive, communicating the entire time. If the game plan changes, you got to talk.
Yeah.
You know, don't just see the current change and okay, I'm just going to assume that my buddy knows that I'm going to move to the other side of the kelp.
Yeah.
You got to say, hey, let's go to the other side of the kelp. The current just changed. Yeah, I know that already, idiot. Okay, cool.
Right.
We said it.
Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah. No, I do it where like my buddy and I kind of spy hop on each other. He'll go down and he'll be over here, and he'll see me come up. I'm like, good, all right, cool.
Yeah, that's
and
how
then I just kind of do
I
that.
dive sea bass with Jeremy Calkins, and that's exactly what we do all day long. It's just one up, one down, and
I kind of find though we cover more ground that way though too.
Sure, you're each other's eyes.
Yeah, because someone's constantly for the most part underwater. We're not diving super deep, so it's not like we're doing really deep dives where you need that huge recovery period. We're just doing little probing dives basically and checking stuff out.
Yeah, we really push. I personally prefer FII, but PFI, FII, any of those the reputable certifications. We really encourage. We don't have a requirement for any of our members to do it, but it's something that at every club meeting you're going to hear us talk about. If you're not certified, go do it.
I talked about this before. I never took a class again. Back then, there was just no. I heard rumors about a class at Catalina one time. My friend that kind of mentored me, and this was in 2006 or something. He told me a course. He went and paid this big money to go to Catalina and learn this course, And I had heard about those things, but that was about it. And then 3 years ago, I finally took my first course.
Yeah.
And it was comical. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, I was able to go to 60 feet and do all that stuff, just by time in the water and all of that. But, man, it sure is way more enjoyable when you know how to do it right.
And also, would you have known what to do with loss of motor control? Like how to properly take care of somebody with the loss of motor control? Would you known,
Yeah, and it was weird. I was kind of a unique case for that because a lot of the diving we were doing, I was doing combat diving where you're dealing with like rebreathers and dudes getting hit with certain things and diving illnesses. So you learn as far as like the circle search and the rescue stuff. So it was like, yeah. But as far as the little things like that help you, free diving is just efficiency. It's just about efficiency. And being relaxed. And it's funny because like there's a little nuggets of information in there.
Yeah.
And even for me, after all the years of diving, I took it. I was like, my wife was like, did you get anything out of the course? Because I was in Guam, and my buddy was the only instructor in Guam. Yeah. Free. I was like, well, you're here. You want to just do it? I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And it was like, I probably learned about 10%. I knew about 90%, but read about 90% of the stuff. But the 10% of stuff that I learned just were these little nuggets that just changed everything.
Yeah, I remember
for the first time I enjoyed diving.
One of the biggest things that I ever learned, and I learned it from Eric Jensen, was so I'm working on becoming an FII instructor as well. And I was on so he was running a class, or maybe it was on Jeremy. It was during a class that I was just sitting in on, getting more reps on the line and in the class. And I remember Eric Jensen saying, free divers are the laziest things in the water. You just need to try to be calm and relaxed and loose.
I mean, right there, how many guys that are free divers that are like sloths on land?
Yes.
My buddy, I'm like, dude, this guy, but he dives to 100 feet. Like,
yeah, you've got it. Like,
so funny.
This guy
has no pulse.
I started like when I was diving on my own, especially when you're hunting. Like if you're just free diving for fun, there's a little different because there's not that tension of hunting, right? But when I was hunting, I would. After I heard that, I really started paying attention. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Is there any reason I'm clenching my jaw right now? Like, why am I feel the tension in your shoulders? Just like, okay, and just release.
And I'm kind of like an intense person, competitive person against myself and stuff. And it was like, I could tell everything is like, I'd be in the kelp like I'm a sniper. It's like, dude, that's totally the opposite. First of all, a fish can like feel that shit a mile away.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, I gotta like chill out.
Just totally relax.
The guy that mentored me, my friend Colin, he was like, dude, guys like us die. Yeah. Because we're so competitive, just against ourselves, where it's like, I'm gonna go to 100 feet today. I'm gonna fucking go to 100 feet today, and nothing's gonna stop me. Yeah. And you go down, and everything about it is wrong. It's like bleeding out your throat. You're coughing up. This is so like where you have to stop caring. Yeah. And stop trying. Right. And just do what you feel like doing. It's exactly the most ass-backwards shit I've ever been a part of.
And it's all that stuff that whether it's through FII or through it's a club or through, and if you don't do either of those things, if you have a good group of buddies that you're diving with, if you're diving with people that have experience, more experience than you, then you're going to learn those things throughout the time. Right. And it's just the responsibility of, as you're getting through your career, if there's other people that want to learn from you, just know, like you were saying earlier, that at one point you were in the same places as they were and to help out.
Yeah,
to try to give them those pointers, later
Right.
on.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of this thing is to bring home food.
Yep.
So, like, why? I mean, it's not a.
And the bringing home is more important than just the food, right?
Right.
It's like getting home.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
make
yeah.
sure we're getting home first,
Yeah.
and when you have food, that's better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because it's just like, I mean, we talk about with social media, it's just like the friggin' dick measuring contest all
Yeah.
the time, and it's like, dude, the grand scheme of things, it's just like,
Well, just that
I
if
just
you're
want to go shoot.
if you're
stuff.
following 500 people that are all showing fish,
Yeah.
really pay attention to individually how often those people are showing big giant fish. Like there's a lot of days in there
Yeah.
where they're not bringing home big giant fish. So you got to recognize
Yeah,
that even though your
I mean-
stream is showing giant fish every day.
I made a little spoof on mileage too. I mean, yeah, you shoot a yellowtail, you take 20 different pictures of the damn thing, at different angles, and then you just release that over time. And the point of it is not to go like, oh, look at all these fish. It's just to give you constant fish porn, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
it's fun.
It's true. That's exactly right.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not trying to say that I shoot fish all the time. I mean, it's the joke of my family is the fact that I hardly, I used to for years go out and be like the most unsuccessful hunter.
Cheryl, she would always say like, "Get anything else today?" Like,
Yeah,
no.
I get
Like,
clowned on all the time.
I'm passing fish all day long. If you want me to, I could bring home
Yeah.
30 fish tomorrow. Like,
Well, I went all the way out to San Clemente, I think, and I didn't shoot one fish. And I realized at the end of the day, all my buddies had stocked up all these fish, and I was like, well, shit, I got to bring home something.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm missing shots on like 10-pound yellowtail.
Yeah,
It's just like,
exactly.
I got to get something.
You're bringing a barracuda. You're like,
Yeah.
I gotta have something.
But my buddies were so stoked because they all were scoring good sized little fish, and it was like, cool. I'm just out here trophy hunting. I'm
Yeah.
just looking for like that one guy. I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously we're back because we had a power problem. But we're talking about conservation again, and you said your goal for the OC Spiros though was
Very long-term goal as we get more organized and as we get larger is to have a voice for hunters, fishermen, spear fishermen,
right.
to be able to try to change regulation into regulation that makes more sense for conservation.
Well, I mean, the Sierra Club does that, and I don't necessarily care for them.
But
in
they do
some
it.
ways,
They
but
do it
they
in
do
such
it
a way
in
as shutting things down.
Right.
They don't do it in terms of management. They just say shut it down.
No.
Like
right.
stop. Nothing else there. And I don't agree with shutting things down. I do agree with
Right.
being responsible with whatever it is, the
Yeah.
resource it is that you're talking about. But understand that.
So like black sea bass, right?
Yeah.
Well, and the thing I joke around about, the problem I feel like they have with this big disconnect with management and biologists and all that, I'm like, I talked about this a little bit before with a friend of mine about, okay, no shooting black sea bass. Okay, so what happens when now we're not shooting black sea bass and the black sea bass numbers get so big, they start eating everything on the reef, kind of like the Goliath grouper.
Yep.
It's very easy for you to be up there and take your little records of fish and stick your face in the water and see what's going on.
And the biggest problem with the black sea bass is
Yeah.
that they don't take kindly to scuba gear, and the vast majority of the biologists that are out there are wearing scuba tanks.
Right.
They're blowing bubbles and scaring away the black
Yeah.
sea bass. So how are they actually going to take accurate numbers?
Right. I mean, and I do, and I understand the need to protect them. I mean, they had the thing pretty much swim into the end of the spear.
Yep.
At San Clemente, and he was a monster, and it was cool to share that moment with that fish, right? It was like neat, but obviously, yeah, if you had open season, everybody would just decimate these
Yep.
things. But just like hunting, I feel like hunting on land has gotten so much farther than hunting on in the water. Where, like you said, if you were saying before, yeah, have us draw like white sea bass tag,
Right.
pay $5,000.
Or not
whatever.
even that. Not even that. Pay $5 and have an unlimited number of
A
entries.
lottery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like so for hunting, there's a lot of like the premium hunts.
Yeah.
Where I can put in, it costs me $5 an entry, and I can put 1,000 entries in if I want of my
Right.
name, and then they draw one name out of a hat, and that person wins that tag. Well, why not do that with black sea bass?
Right.
Why not do that with one of these to where you would generate significant amounts of income that goes directly to Fish and Game to continue
Right.
with conservation, their conservation efforts, without harming the stock
Yeah.
in any sort of real and significant way.
And I mean, it would just help with everything. I mean, to be fair, the Fish and Game guys work their asses off.
Absolutely.
And I will say, like, for the most part, the coolest thing about Fish and Game is they've always been really nice, really respectful, especially when you have the kids and you're fishing. But wouldn't it be great if you could give them first of all, more money, because the state doesn't fund,
Right.
And make them be more effective into getting the bad guys.
And wouldn't it be cool if it was us, the spear fishermen and the hunters and the fishers that were fishermen that were funding that, which we
to
can
actually give them the right information to make laws that would benefit wildlife and us.
Right. Right.
Like we joke around, my friends and I joke around. I'm like, isn't it such bullshit that I get 2 bluefin a day, which is funny because I've never shot. Well, I shot 2 bluefin, smaller one than a day, but and then that's. But meanwhile, a commercial guy out there just went out and just took a mile of fish.
Right.
And then I got 3 bluefin last year, and I must have went out 30 times. Like,
yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Exactly. It's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's a strange policy that it seems to be built around shutting things down and it almost seems like it comes from a lack of knowledge. It's like, well, I don't understand this enough, so I'm just going to say no. Just shut it down.
Where, they closed the kelp bed out here, this one part of the kelp bed, and I'm for it. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. The other side's open. But at the same time, like, okay, you closed it. What are your plans to open it? And what is your long-term plan? Like, you close it, but you're not communicating that.
Well, it's like Laguna Beach for us.
Right.
Up in Orange County.
Yeah.
It was the best hunting grounds that you could possibly imagine. Like, even today, if you wanted to take your kids on the most amazing snorkeling trip in forever, go to Laguna Beach.
Right.
Well, it's been shut down for years now, completely shut down to anything. You can't take a rock out of Laguna Beach.
Right.
Which is like, okay, I understand that if the numbers say that it was getting overfished, something has to be done. But is the answer just shut it down?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. It seems like it's almost sort of just wiping your hands and saying, that's it. And there's no communicate, like you were saying, there's no communication on, okay, once it gets back to X level, we're going to reopen it for this amount of something.
Well, and for the biologist, it would be nice for them to be like, hey, let's go talk to this group of people to get their input, because they're the ones that are actually mostly affected.
To be fair,
have they done that?
There's been an event that I've been trying to put together to partner with Fish and Game to do some sort of inland waterways invasive species derby. Figure that it's a way for our divers to understand that there are certain areas, like most areas in California, you're not allowed to spearfish in inland waterways, but there are certain areas where you are, and in those areas there's a lot of invasive species.
Right.
So I ended up through that.
Up in the redwoods too, there's that, I forgot the type of invasive species.
It's like there's some carp that needs to be eradicated, right?
Yeah.
So through the process of trying to put together that derby, which trying to deal with the state has been very difficult, but I ended up meeting, he's a biologist within Fish and Game, and you will not believe that this is his actual name, but his name is Max Fish. He's awesome. He was super helpful. He seems to care very much for the same things that we care.
I think the biologists want the same thing we do.
Well, when I told him what our group was, he said, "Oh my gosh, you guys could be such a great asset for us."
Right.
We're working on appropriating money right now to fix the natural reefs that were put out, 30, 40 years ago, and to build new artificial reefs out there. And we would love it if you guys could come and help us, give us some data.
Dude, we'd love it.
Yeah, and so I said, we're on board, we want to hear. So that was a few months ago, and he said it's probably going to be a year of appropriating the monies, but he said, we'll be in touch. We need help.
Yeah.
So to be fair, there are people. I think that there's individuals within the organization that do want that sort of thing.
Well, it's not that I think the organization is bad too. It's just that they don't know how to. They don't even know that we're there,
right?
Or they don't even know how to access us. And
right.
If you give them an access point, and they tried to access, I think we have so much information in our friggin' noggins.
There's also a stigma where spear fishermen think that biologists are trying to shut everything down, and biologists think that spear fishermen or fishermen or whatever, fill in the blank, think that we're all out raping reefs.
Yeah.
So one.
It's kind of the beauty of spearfishing is I'm not.
But people don't know that.
You just go snorkeling, basically.
They don't know that.
And then the fish swims in front of me, cool, like a decent one.
Yeah.
cool, and then I'm good.
Yeah, and part of the responsibility of being one of our club members is to understand that you're out there as a, you're flying the flag of the OC Spiros, so you have to act in a way that shows that we are not what you stigmatize us to be. We are not out there just raping reefs and killing things and just for no reason and laughing at dead animals. Like that is no room in our sport.
Yeah,
and in our
I would
organization.
be kicked out of my house if I was like that. I think.
Yeah, you just
my
can't.
daughters would hate me. My son would be like, "You're a loser, Dad," and my
wife
would be like, "Pack your shit."
Right. It doesn't exist.
Sure.
Right. It's not how it is. And so so as we keep going and as an organization, as we keep growing, and as we get more members that are out there acting appropriately and really speaking about how they're acting appropriately, I think it starts breaking down that wall.
Yeah.
Between that separates those that are collecting data.
And it's funny because like I think about this in the most generic way, like the most you go into some of these places, right? Like say even in Catalina, if you just dive off Casino Point there, right? And they got that giant ass. There's like a halibut. There's like a giant sheep's head.
There's the big black that sits out on the
and it's funny
buoys,
because like I can turn off the hunting mode because it's not about like I enjoy being in the ocean.
Yeah, and
I enjoy like this is cool fish.
Yeah,
and if I was I don't have to be in a protected area to turn that off. It's there. It's part of me. So if I was and this happened in what happened in San Clemente Island. I'm diving and like this giant thing swims up to me and it's like, oh, how cool is this? This is great.
We've got
it's not all kill and kill and kill. It's like
we had a club meeting at Spear America 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah,
where we brought Nate Lucas. He's he's an FII instructor. He's a Spiro, but he's also a professional photographer.
Right. And
half the time that he goes freediving, he does it with a camera in his hand, not in his gun.
Yeah.
And he came to teach the members like, hey, if your freezer's full and you still want to dive, go dive, but put a camera in your hand.
Yeah.
And go enjoy all this.
There's so many times I don't shoot anything.
Right.
Like I think I posted some video. It's kind of funny because this little spot that I go right out here, I start to know the local fish, the local reef fish, and there was this sheep's head, and I've seen him a few times, and he swims, and he's getting bigger, and he keeps swimming, like, right up to my thing, and I'm like, buddy, no, don't do that, don't do that.
Yeah,
I'm not going to shoot you, because I know you live here, and I want to come here and take you,
right?
But don't do that,
back off.
So it's just funny, like, you're really making attention, but don't do that, and I have those relationships when you're underwater and you spend a lot of time on certain reefs. You have relationship with certain, I don't want to say relationships, but you just have you understand how it works and how delicate.
And I don't think you're unique.
I don't think so either.
I think if the public was able to understand that's who we are, I think that they wouldn't put on the blinders and just shut down the conversation before it even started.
Right.
Because they would know that we have a vested interest.
I kind of look at them as like pets, right?
Yeah.
But they're the coolest pets because you don't have to take care of them. They take care of themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you just get to see them. It's like your boy, diving out. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He'll come.
See any big yellowtail around here? No?
Could you point me to the nearest food?
Yeah. I mean, and part of that is maybe one day he'll get big enough and I'll see him and I'll take him.
Yeah.
And maybe not, I don't know.
But that's part of the active conservation that you're already doing. Like even though you are harvesting, you're still acting in a way of conservation because you're maintaining the habitat that you're using as part of your sport and sort of
you're connected to it.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
You are not separated. You are not just something that was dropped onto Earth from a spaceship and you need to like you're walking into some sort of terrarium. That's not what it is.
Yeah.
We're part of that terrarium.
In some ways, right, it's like farmers when they raise pigs and stuff, and then you got to go slaughter the pigs, like you raise the things. And, it's like that's kind of...
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, just the way it is.
You may feel bad, and it's okay to feel bad about it, but it's what has to be done.
Right, but it doesn't mean there's ever obviously for me, it's there's a lot more respect there because of that. You know, all right, buddy, it's time to go, man.
I've taken care of you for this long. Now it's time for you to take care of me.
I won't shoot you, but maybe next summer when I take him out there and he sees you, he might take you. I don't know. Yeah, that'll be it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then but then again, if he swims right up, I kind of let him go. It's not hard. It's like I don't know. Yeah, but so you moving on to a new segment, I guess you could say trips, and then we'll finish up because I know we're running late, but. where have you been and what are your favorite trips?
Are you talking about in the club or personally?
Just personally, just spearfishing. Or
Spearfishing
wherever.
trips internationally has mostly been Mexico.
Yeah.
So
it's a good start.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite spearfishing has been in Bay of LA.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love that area. I love how I just like the town. You know, it's 1950 Mexico.
I love it.
All over again. You know, you've got alejandrinas for dinner, and you've got hamacas for breakfast, and that's it. That's all the town is. And then the fishing is just like I said. There was a 7-mile long bait ball.
Yeah.
Like you don't get that anywhere else.
No, and it's not that far.
It's not. It's cheap. Like 12 hours from me. Yeah. It's probably 10 hours from you.
It's 10 hours.
Yeah,
it's cheap.
And it's cheap.
There's other places along there. But, yeah. And the other thing I like about it is like the handshake, because everything's like everybody has a good value system.
First time I went to Cangrejos. We pull up, and Pedro's the owner, and Pedro's wife. She's like, "Hey, I just finished making dinner. I made some extra for you guys." Yeah. And she brought us this gigantic plate of pasta with butter with clams that her son had just gone and dug up the morning before. Cool. She's like, "I just made these for you guys here while you're unloading. Have some dinner." Yeah. It's like you don't get that anywhere else, right? Like you're not going to go. That's nice. You're not. I mean, I've been diving on charters in Cabo, which is great. You know, there's good fish down there, but you're not going to get that in Cabo.
No, and you're going to pay for it.
And you're going to pay for
a lot.
Right. I mean, yeah. The trip in Cabo, I think at the time his list price was like $1,800 for a couple days. You know, and I'm just like, obviously growing up spearing in Hawaii, I didn't even know that I was really spearfishing. I thought I was just running around with a Hawaiian sling, even though we weren't killing big fish, and I wasn't able to dive deep enough for any uku or anything like that.
It's all exciting though.
It's still exciting, you know. Just those.
What island was that?
So my family's all on Oahu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're between. There's a house in Ka'ava, and then so we'd spear off of there, and then actually a cousin of ours married a family that owns Kualoa Ranch.
Oh wow!
So we were able to not only enjoy the ranch, but then dive off of Chinaman's Hat right there, and when the tide gets low, go walk out and grab taco off the reef, and it was just I was spoiled in my early years.
That's you know how it is in those island places where if you have friends that own the private land, and you're like, oh my god. Awesome.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Yeah,
you guys want to go pig hunting? Go pig hunting. Okay.
Yeah, or he's got Kulo. I remember there's ponds all over. He's like, hey, you want a giant catfish? You know, so he'd give us the bamboo poles and just basically swing it out there. And now you're fighting, with no reel. We were catching huge catfish back in there.
To a kid, that's such a cool way to grow up. I lived in Tennessee when I was like 3 to like 7. Yeah. And we had a pond in the backyard, and every day after school, I'd just go fish, and that's what kind of got me into fishing. Yeah. And you never knew what the hell. You just pulled out some giant bass, which probably was this big, but to me at the time, your kid, it was like, huge. You're a legend, among your friends. Yeah, that's exactly. My friend Jay Patrick, I remember this day, pulled this bass out, and we were like, "Oh my, he's a god!" To this day, I'm 41 years old, and it's like, dude, I remember that. Jay Patrick holds this bass up. Yeah, he was a friggin' god. Yeah.
So that. I didn't spear on the Great Barrier, but the Great Barrier is what really got me really wanting to be serious about extended time in the water. Big. Just all the giant fish that were there, and but once I came back and started getting serious, I realized that California waters, you're not going to find anywhere else in the world that's more biodiverse. You're just not.
It's funny because I didn't realize same stuff. Mm-hmm. I guess because you grew up here and you're like, man, our fish are really big here. Yeah. Compared to a lot. I mean, we have, and then the bluefin. Yeah. Like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, we have 300-pound bluefin.
And 10, 12 years ago, it was albacore. Suddenly the albacore were here running crazy, and the bluefin are coming in huge. But I mean, even if
guys are catching 50-pound yellows off the pier.
Right.
Not that that's common, but it's possible.
Right. Yeah. Mile off of Dana, they're shooting bluefin. Yeah. What was that? A month or two ago, they were shooting bluefin. Mile out
I've been in a yellowfin. It was foggy, and my friend and I were just so giddy. But it was like 3 miles off Point Loma. Yeah. And it was foggy, and there was yellowfin and everywhere. Nobody knows it's foggy. It's so awesome.
They couldn't see the boils from shore.
No, but I was like, dude, this is crazy. Yeah. But it happens, and then we get marlin, and then we get Right. It's a really
Dorado
special
coming up
place. Dorado and
Yeah.
Wahoo occasionally.
Yeah,
You know?
down here, yeah, we won't get them as far
Right,
north as
right.
Orange County, but you'll get them in San Diego. Yeah, I tell everybody, I'm like, hey, if you take a minute, like when I'm giving my sales pitch to the club,
Yeah.
especially to people that maybe are wanting to get into diving and haven't yet, and they're just trying to
Yeah.
feel it out. I'm like, do yourself a favor and just get a mask and snorkel and go to a local beach and float around and look.
Yeah.
That's what's going to seal the deal on getting you into diving. Because California, yeah, our water's cold. Yeah, we've got some current. And yeah, there are a lot of days where our visibility sucks.
Right.
But the amount of fish and sea life that you're going to see in a very close proximity to where you live is just out of control. Like, it's shocking what you'll see. And I love it here. I mean, I try to get out at least once or twice a week and really enjoy it.
I just feel like you just never know what you're going to find out here. And even in the wintertime where everything kind of shuts down, not necessarily shuts down. Like last year they were getting...
They're still shooting yellows right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even in the wintertime, sometimes the yellows, the big home guards are the bigger ones.
Yep.
And then they were getting bluefin last year in January.
Yep.
And I actually left by then because I was deploying with some guys, and we went where it was in Guam, and I saw the guys got bluefin in January. I was like, this is out of hand.
Yeah.
And then it's like there's no downtime because then in
the
that
sea
time
bass show
then you
up.
start sea bass.
Yeah.
It's like, it's pretty special. And it used to be where I was surfing so much, and now, man, I'm just in the water all the time because I still surf all the time, but more often than not, lately it's been kind of small surf, so it's like I just go dive. Let's go dive. Go dive. Oh, those waves. Okay, I'll surf.
Right.
Where it used to be the other way around, I'd just wait around and like, it's not like the best viz. I can still go out and surf a little bit.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and last summer too was a rough. At least further north with us in Orange County, it was a rough summer with visibility wise. I mean, we had a lot of guacamole.
Yeah, it was shitty.
Yeah, diving a lot.
Yeah.
Our annual tournament, we hold the biggest. So St. Pete's in Florida claims to be the biggest spearfishing tournament in the world, and although by participants they are, the majority of their participants are scuba divers. So for us, I believe that we're the largest free dive spearfishing tournament in the world. Yeah. And last year, it was a tough year last year because of our conditions.
Right.
And that just goes to underscore, like, California, we produce some of the best divers in the world because our conditions are so difficult that if you can dive well here and be successful
best spear fishermen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you can spear and be successful here, if you go elsewhere in the world where conditions are easier, you've got a leg up on everybody. So it's...
I kind of thought too, like, diving here, like, you don't have to be the best free diver. You have to understand.
You have to hunt.
Yeah, you have to know how to hunt. Really good hunter, right? But you don't have to be the best free diver. And Guam, when I dive down there, is that it's such clear water, the fish are very weary.
Yeah.
But they're so fished out where the fish are deep. So you got to be a pretty damn good free diver.
Well, Hawaii is the same way now.
Hawaii is, yeah. Even I've been to Hawaii, and it was like, I was surprised when I went to Guam. I was like, damn. Okay, but that's part of my buddy down there is pushing the big conservation thing because it is so fished out. But like you go down there and it's like you put the two together where it's like all of a sudden my diving's gotten much better. Then you come here and you're like, dude, I think I used my time in Guam as like a training ground, and then when I got back here, I had like the best summer. Yeah. It was just like, dude, I just feel so confident. Yeah. And I know how to read this, and now it's like, well, I can do this at 30 feet. Well, I'll just do this at 60 or do this at 70.
Exactly.
And you get,
And that's that community, because you found the community of people to teach you, and so once you have that community around you, you're able to build confidence and build knowledge, and it's really gonna.
That was the number one thing I liked about Guam, was that their community was so welcoming, and it seems like you guys are trying to do that in OC Spiros, and it's working. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because you're growing. Cool. Yeah, and I do like the tri-club meets and all that to bring everybody together. Yeah. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Even though we had. There was a guy that was looking at our club, looking at a different club, and I was sort of talking him through it, and he decided that he was going to join an LA club instead of ours, and he was so apologetic, and I'm like, dude, we're all part of the same family.
Yeah,
We're
there
just
seems
different
to be some made up beef or
There's-
not, like some bullshit. Like,
yeah, we're just.
no.
I'm just like, no. I'm glad you found a home. That's awesome. You're gonna
Yeah.
learn. Good for you.
Yeah.
You know, like
But,
that's just
well,
how.
call us. We'll have a big fight. That's what it's like. No, dude.
Snap.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like the whole point is to meet people to go diving with.
That's
It's
exactly
just
right.
Not like I don't understand that.
Yeah, we're trying to build a comfortable, community of people
Yeah.
that want to do the sport together,
Yeah.
and that don't feel bad about asking questions and don't feel bad
Right.
about how good or not good they are. Like, it's not the point.
Yeah, I always say this because I kind of went on a tangent the other day at home about, spearfishing was so small years ago,
Yeah.
and then it just exploded, especially with that tuna.
Yeah.
It kind of exploded everything. Well, I remember it was like I grew up surfing and I love surfing.
Yeah.
But our surf culture can be quite douchey sometimes.
Right.
And like I felt like there was a part of that surf culture that infiltrated spearfishing, where all of a sudden like it was okay to like clown on people that didn't know,
Yeah.
and talk shit, and it really kind of pissed me off because it was like,
When people try to do that, I
Yeah.
mean, we tamp that down like right away. Like,
Dude.
who are you?
yeah, calm down.
Yeah,
dude.
like-
you're not Kelly Slater.
Yeah.
And you're not the Kelly Slater of spearfishing if there was one.
Right.
Calm down.
Yeah, like chill out.
Yeah, so I want our sport to stay like that because it is a personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's a personal thing. It's not like, when you do a tournament, right? It's just the luck of the draw. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of times, and there is skill. There is for sure,
Sure,
there's
yeah.
skill. But
Yeah, there's a reason that
Yeah.
Richard Balta and,
right,
and Scotty
every
Bloomer
year,
are winning everything. Yeah.
Just like the lobster thing, like we did this tournament, this contest, and we won, and it was like I just knew I was gonna win.
Yeah.
I mean, with all the shit from mammals and
But that's
diving.
also part of you spent time on the road that we were talking
Yeah.
about, and that was one of your milestones along the way. But you didn't look at that as, all right, I'm here now, I'm done. It's like, okay, what do I need to
Right.
do? What more do I have to learn?
Yeah, and it's just funny because the contests are more just it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not winning a lot of money.
Right.
And not So it just seems like I just want our sport to stay the direction in which you guys are going in, just not douchey.
Yeah.
And fun for everybody and welcoming for everybody. Because the whole point is if you are enjoying what you're doing in spearfishing, you're going to give a shit about the environment.
Right.
And it seems like anymore, we're some of the biggest advocates for it.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're gone, then who knows? I mean, then you're kind of you're taking all the power out of our hands, and you're giving it to people that may not know.
Right.
And they're just making their own decisions and
Right.
closing stuff off and all this stuff when
Right.
it's not helping. It's actually could be counter.
And with the
counterproductive.
information that's in front of them, maybe to them it's the right decision. But
Yeah,
until
for sure.
until we have people like us that are providing more information,
Yeah.
that just helps them make a more rounded decision.
Yeah. Well, I think this is I just want to say thanks for coming down.
Absolutely,
I know it's
appreciate you having me.
And I'm just really excited to have met you.
Maybe OC Spiros will have to be down here in the near future. We'll have to see.
Anytime.
Absolutely.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate
much.
it.
All right, brother. This is good.